Chapter 1. Mystery Girl. It all began on a beautiful spring morning in a village called Whistler in Canada, a pretty little village in the mountains of British Columbia. There was a cafe in the village with tables outside, and at one of these tables sat a young man. He finished his breakfast, drank his coffee, looked up into the blue sky, and felt the warm sun on his face. Nick Lortz was a happy man. The waiter came up to his table. "More coffee?" he asked. "Yeah, great," said Nick. He gave the waiter his coffee cup. The waiter looked at the camera on the table. "On vacation?" he said. "Where are you from?" "San Francisco," Nick said. He laughed. "But I'm not on vacation, I'm working. I'm a travel writer, and I'm doing a book on mountains in North America. I've got some great pictures of your mountain." The two men looked up at Whistler Mountain behind the village. It looked very beautiful in the morning sun. "Do you travel a lot then?" asked the waiter. "All the time," Nick said. "I write books, and I write for travel magazines. I write about everything, different countries, towns, villages, rivers, mountains, people." The waiter looked over Nick's head. "There's a girl across the street," he said. "Do you know her?" Nick turned his head and looked. "No, I don't." "Well, she knows you, I think," the waiter said. "She's watching you very carefully." He gave Nick a smile. "Have a nice day." He went away, back into the cafe. Nick looked at the girl across the street. She was about 25 and she was very pretty. "She is watching me," Nick thought. Then the girl turned and looked in one of the shop windows. After a second or two, she looked back at Nick again. Nick watched her. "She looks worried," he thought. "What's she doing? Is she waiting for somebody?" Suddenly the girl smiled. Then she walked across the street, came up to Nick's table and sat down. She put her bag down on the table. The bag was half open. "Hi, I'm Jan," she said. "Do you remember me? We met at a party in Toronto." "Hi, Jan," said Nick. He smiled. "I'm Nick, but we didn't meet at a party in Toronto. I don't go to parties very often and never in Toronto." "Oh," the girl said. But she didn't get up or move away. "Have some coffee," said Nick. The story about the party in Toronto wasn't true, but it was a beautiful morning, and she was a pretty girl. "Maybe it was a party in Montreal or New York," the girl laughed. "Okay, maybe it was. And yes, I'd love some coffee." When she had her coffee, Nick asked, "What are you doing in Whistler? Or do you live here?" "Oh, no," she said. "I'm just traveling through. And what are you doing here?" "I'm a travel writer," Nick said, "and I'm writing a book about famous mountains." "That's interesting," she said. But her face was worried, not interested, and she looked across the road again. A man with very short white hair walked across the road. He was about 60 years old, and he was tall and thin. The girl watched him. "Are you waiting for someone?" asked Nick. "No," she said quickly. Then she asked, "Where are you going next, Nick?" "To Vancouver for 3 or 4 days," he said. "When are you going?" she asked. "Later this morning," he said. There was a letter in the top of the girl's half-open bag. Nick could see some of the writing, and he read it because he saw the word Vancouver, and "We can meet at the Empress Hotel, Victoria, Vancouver Island, on Friday afternoon." So she's going to Vancouver too, he thought. Suddenly the girl said, "Do you like movies?" Movies. Yes, I love movies, he said. Why? I know a man, and he loves movies and going to the cinema, she said slowly. People call him Mr. Hollywood. She smiled at Nick. Can I call you Mr. Hollywood too? Nick laughed. Okay, he said. And what can I call you? She smiled again. Call me Mystery Girl, she said. That's a good name for you, said Nick. Just then, the man with white hair came into the cafe. He did not look at Nick or the girl, but he sat at a table near them. He asked the waiter for some breakfast. Then he began to read a magazine. The girl looked at the man, then quickly looked away again. Do you know him? Nick asked her. No, she said. She finished her coffee quickly and got up. I must go now, she said. Nick stood up too. Nice to, he began, but the girl suddenly took his face between her hands and kissed him on the mouth. Drive carefully, Mr. Hollywood, goodbye, she said, with a big, beautiful smile. Then she turned and walked quickly away. Nick sat down again and watched her. She walked down the road and into a big hotel. Now what? Thought Nick. Was that all about? The man with white hair watched Nick and waited. After 4 or 5 minutes, Nick finished his coffee, took his books and his camera, and left the cafe. His car was just outside the girls' hotel, and he walked slowly along the street to it. The man with white hair waited a second, then quickly followed Nick. From a window high up in the hotel, the girl looked down into the road. She saw Nick and the man with white hair about 50 yards behind him. Nick got into his car and the man with white hair walked quickly to a red car across the street. 5 seconds later, Nick drove away in his blue car, and the red car began to follow him. When the girl saw this, she smiled, then went to put some things in her travel bag. Chapter 2. A Hand in the Back. That evening, in his hotel room in Vancouver, Nick could not stop thinking about the girl in the Whistler Cafe. Why did she come and sit with him? She didn't know him, and that story about a party in Toronto wasn't true, and she was worried about something. But what? And that kiss? It was nice, of course, but why did she do it? Maybe she liked my face, Nick thought, or my brown eyes. But I'm not going to see her again, so it doesn't matter, forget it. He put some money in his pocket and went downstairs to the hotel restaurant. But there were no free tables, so he walked down to Gastown and found a restaurant there. After dinner, he went for a walk. Vancouver was a friendly city, and Nick liked walking through Gastown and Chinatown, looking in the shops and watching the people. It was nearly dark now, and it was a busy time of the evening. There were a lot of cars and a lot of people. After a time, Nick began to walk back to his hotel. He came to a busy street and waited, with a small crowd of people to go across. A tall woman in a blue dress stood next to him. She turned and smiled at him. "It's the first warm evening of spring," she said. "It's nice to be out after the long, cold winter." "Yeah," said Nick. "It's great. It's—" Suddenly, there was a hand in his back, and the hand pushed Nick into the road. Nick fell on his face in front of a big green car. People screamed, but the green car stopped, only inches from Nick's head. The woman in the blue dress ran into the road and pulled Nick to his feet. "Are you okay? What happened?" she said. The driver of the green car shouted angrily at Nick, but Nick did not hear him. "Somebody pushed me," he said to the woman. "I didn't fall, somebody pushed me." "Pushed you?" said the woman. "Who? I didn't see anybody." Nick looked at the faces of the people near him, but he didn't know them. Then he saw a man's back. The man was tall and thin and had very short white hair. He walked quickly away down the street and did not look back. "Hey, you!" Nick shouted. "Wait!" But the man did not stop, and he was soon lost in the crowds. "Did he push you?" asked the woman in the blue dress. I don't know," Nick said. "Do you know him?" she asked. "I don't know his name," Nick said, "but I know that short white hair." "Now where did I see it before?" The woman began to move away. "I must get home," she said. "Are you okay now?" "Yeah, I'm okay," Nick said. "And thanks. Thanks for your help." "That's okay," the woman smiled. "Be careful now." Back in his hotel, Nick sat on his bed and thought. It was an accident. Nobody pushed me. It was an accident. Nobody wants to kill me. And there are hundreds of men in Vancouver with white hair. It was 1 o'clock in the morning, but Nick couldn't sleep. He listened to the cars in the road, and he looked at the night sky through his hotel room window. Then he sat at the table and tried to write some more of his book about mountains, but he couldn't think about his work. He got back into bed. There were 4 or 5 magazines in the hotel room. They were not very interesting, but Nick sat in bed and opened one and saw a photo of Mystery Girl. He looked at the picture very carefully, but yes, it was her. Jan, the girl from the Whistler Cafe. She was next to a man of about 50 or 55, and they were in the garden of a big, expensive house. They smiled at the camera, and they looked very happy. Canadian millionaire Howard Hudson and his daughter Meg, it said under the picture, at their home in Toronto. Meg Hudson, not January. Not Mystery Girl. Meg Hudson, the daughter of a millionaire. Nick read it again. Why did she come and sit with me in the cafe at Whistler? He thought. Millionaires' daughters don't sit with strangers in cafes and then give them a big kiss when they leave. Why did she do it? What did she want? He thought back to the cafe in Whistler and the girl next to him at the table. Then he remembered something. He remembered a man at a table near them in the cafe. A tall, thin man, about 60 years old. A man with very short white hair. Nick didn't sleep much that night. Chapter 3. A walk in the park. The next day was Thursday. Nick stayed in his hotel room and wrote about mountains all morning. Then he drove to Stanley Park in the afternoon. He sat and read a book for an hour. Then he went for a walk under the tall trees. There was nobody here. It was quiet and he could walk and think. He thought about Meg Hudson and about the man with white hair. Did he know Meg Hudson? Did she know him? He remembered Meg Hudson's last words. Drive carefully, Mr. Hollywood. Why did she say that? Why did she call him Mr. Hollywood? He didn't understand any of it. Suddenly he heard a noise. He stopped. That was a gun, he thought. There's somebody in the trees with a gun. There it is again. Then something hit the tree over his head. Somebody's shooting at me, Nick thought. He turned and ran, and somebody began to run after him. Nick ran through the trees. There was no sun in here, and it was half dark. And there were no people, nobody to help him. I must get to my car, Nick thought. Find some people, the police. He ran on. He could still hear the gunman behind him, so he ran faster. After 3 or 4 minutes, he stopped and listened. Nothing. It was all quiet. Nick was afraid. What's happening? He thought. Why is somebody shooting at me? First a hand pushes me in front of a car, and now somebody's shooting at me. He waited another second or two, then walked quickly back to his car. He was very careful. He looked and listened all the time. But nobody came out of the trees and nobody shot at him. Then he saw people, women with young children, some boys with a football, 2 men with a dog. He began to feel better. Nobody can shoot me now, he thought. Not with all these people here. 10 minutes later, he was back at his car. There was a letter on the window. Nick read it. It said, "I'm going to kill you, Mr. Hollywood." Nick drove to the nearest police station. He waited for half an hour, then a tired young policeman took him into a small room. Nick told his story and the policeman wrote it all down. "So what are you going to do?" asked Nick. "Nothing," said the policeman. "Nothing," said Nick. "But somebody shot at me and—" "Mr. Lortz," the policeman said tiredly, "how many people are there in this town with guns?" "I don't know," said Nick. "But you didn't see the gunman. Was it a man, a boy, a woman? Colour of eyes? Long hair, short hair?" "You don't know because you didn't see anybody. Maybe it was an old girlfriend. Maybe somebody doesn't like your travel books, Mr. Lortz. But what about the man with white hair in Whistler?" said Nick. "The girl, Meg Hudson, called me Mr. Hollywood in the cafe, and this man heard her. And now I get a letter to Mr. Hollywood on my car. Who is this Mr. Hollywood?" "We all want answers to our questions, Mr. Lortz," the policeman said, "but we don't always get them." Questions, but no answers. Nick walked out of the police station and drove to his hotel. He was angry and afraid. How did the man with white hair find me in Vancouver? He thought. Did he follow me from Whistler? Is he following me now? Maybe he's staying at my hotel too, in the next room, with his gun. Chapter 4. The man with white hair. Nick stopped his car in front of the hotel. He looked carefully before he got out, but there was nobody with white hair near the hotel. He half ran through the hotel doors and went to the desk inside. "I'm looking for a man with very short white hair," he said to the woman behind the desk. "He's staying here, I think. He's about 60 years old, and he's tall and thin." The woman did not look very interested. "There are a lot of visitors in the hotel," she said. "Do you know his name?" "No, I don't," Nick said. "He's a friend of a friend, you see. He arrived in Vancouver yesterday and I must find him. It's very important. Please help me." The woman looked at him. "There are 350 rooms in this hotel," she said, "and maybe 30 or 40 men with white hair. How can I remember all their names?" She turned away to answer a telephone call. Nick walked away from the desk. A drink, he thought. I need a drink. He went into the hotel bar, got a drink, and sat down at a table. So what do I do now? He thought. And then he remembered something. A letter in the girl's half-open bag in the Whistler Cafe. and we can meet at the Empress Hotel Victoria, Vancouver Island on Friday afternoon. And tomorrow was Friday. I'm going to Victoria on Vancouver Island, he thought, to the Empress Hotel. Nick had dinner in the hotel that evening. He finished eating and got up from his table and saw the man with white hair. Nick moved quickly. The man was at the hotel desk. Nick could see the white head above the other heads near the desk. "Excuse me," said Nick. He pushed past the people in the hotel restaurant. A small boy ran in front of him and Nick ran into him. The boy and Nick fell down on the floor. The boy began to cry. "Hey," said a woman behind Nick. "I'm very sorry," said Nick. He got up and helped the boy to his feet. "Are you okay?" he asked the boy. "Be more careful next time," said the woman. Nick moved away quickly, but when he looked back at the hotel desk, he couldn't see the man with white hair. He pushed through the crowd of people. "That man?" he shouted at the woman behind the desk. "That man with short white hair. Where did he go?" The woman looked at Nick. "Mr. Vickers?" she said. "I don't know." "Vickers? Is that his name?" said Nick. "What's his room number?" "I'm sorry I can't tell you that," the woman said. "But I need to," began Nick. The woman turned away to answer the telephone. After a second or two, Nick went upstairs to his room. Vickers, he thought. Does Meg Hudson know Mr. Vickers? I need some answers, and I need them quickly. Chapter 5. Vancouver Island, Tsawwassen, was about 23 miles south of Vancouver. Nick drove there in his car the next morning for the 1 o'clock ferry to Vancouver Island. Every 5 minutes he looked behind him. The road was busy. Black cars, white cars, red cars, green cars. Maybe Vickers was in one of them. At Tsawwassen, Nick drove his car onto the ferry. There were a lot of cars and crowds of people. Nick got out of his car and walked up and down the ship. He looked for a man with white hair, but he didn't see one. Soon the ferry began to move and Nick felt better. He found the ferry restaurant and got something to eat. More people came in. Nick looked at the faces of all the older men. Some had hats on, so he looked for somebody tall and thin, but there was nobody. Maybe he's not on the ferry, Nick thought. Maybe he's back in Vancouver. Later, Nick walked around the ship again. Once he thought he saw the man with white hair in the crowds, but he could not be sure. 90 minutes after leaving Tsawwassen, the ferry arrived at Swartz Bay on Vancouver Island, and Nick went back down to his car. Swartz Bay was 20 miles north of Victoria. Nick drove quickly and again looked behind him every 4 or 5 minutes. Once he saw a red car about 200 yards behind him. Did I see that car on the road from Vancouver to Tsawwassen? He thought. He drove more slowly, but the red car still stayed 200 yards behind him, and Nick couldn't see the driver's face or hair. Soon he was in the busy streets of Victoria, and Nick didn't see the red car behind him again. Victoria was a city of gardens and beautiful old buildings. Nick liked Victoria very much, but today he wasn't interested in gardens or buildings. He found the Empress Hotel, went inside and walked across to the desk. "Can I help you?" a young man asked Nick. "I'm meeting a friend here this afternoon," said Nick. "Miss Hudson." "Hudson?" said the young man. "Wait a minute." He went away and came back. "Sorry, but there's no Miss Hudson staying here." Nick took something from his pocket. It was the photograph of Meg and her father from the magazine. "This is her," he said. The young man looked at the picture. "Oh, right. You mean Howard Hudson's daughter," he said. "She's not staying here, but I saw her 10 or 15 minutes ago. She was with somebody, a man. He asked me about the tea room." "The tea room?" said Nick. "Where's that?" The man with short white hair was tired. He couldn't sleep and he couldn't eat. He thought about only one thing all the time. He drove and he watched, and he waited and he followed. When he drove into Victoria, the streets were busy, and suddenly he lost the blue car in front of him. Angrily, he drove around the city past all the big hotels. "I must find him," he said. "I must do it. Today." Then he saw the Empress Hotel, and in the street outside it, a blue car. He drove past the hotel, left his car, and ran back down the street. He went across the road and walked past the downstairs windows. There was a big room with tables and chairs and a lot of people. He looked carefully at all the faces. "There she is," he said suddenly. There were two men with the girl. He couldn't see their faces, only the backs of their heads, but one of the men was in a green shirt. "Mr. Hollywood," the man said, and smiled. "Goodbye, Mr. Hollywood." People in the street turned to look at him, but the man did not see them. He walked up to the doors of the hotel and put a hand into his pocket. Inside, the gun was cold and hard. Chapter 6. A Tea Party. Nick looked through the doors of the tea room in the Empress Hotel. Meg Hudson sat at a table with a man. The man was about 30 or maybe a year or two younger. He was tall and brown from the sun. He wore a white shirt, white trousers, and white shoes. He said something to Meg and she laughed. She looked very happy. A waiter came up to Nick. "Can I get you some tea?" he asked. "No, thanks," said Nick. "I'm with the two people over there." And he walked across to Meg's table. "Hello, mystery girl," said Nick. "Remember me? We met at Whistler. Your name was Jan then. But maybe today it's Meg Hudson." Meg Hudson looked up at him. "Oh," she said, and her face went red. "Who is this, Meg?" asked the man. "This is Nick," said Meg. "He's a writer. Nick, this is Craig Winters." "Sometimes called Mr. Hollywood," said Nick. "Maybe. But how did you know that?" asked Craig Winters. "I guessed," said Nick. "And I think I'm beginning to understand. Can I ask you a question, Mr. Winters? Does somebody want to kill you?" Craig Winters' face went white. "Kill me? What are you talking about?" asked Meg. "Before I tell you, answer this question, please," said Nick. "You called me Mr. Hollywood in Whistler, and you wanted the man at the next table, the man with white hair, to hear you. Is that right?" Meg Hudson did not answer at first. Then she said quietly, "Yes." "Why?" asked Nick. "I wanted him to follow you, and not me." "Why?" Nick asked again. "I think he's a detective," said Meg. "And I think he's working for my father. I saw him soon after I left Toronto. He followed me." Meg put her hand on Craig Winters' arm. "My father doesn't like Craig. A month ago he told me not to see Craig again. I'm not happy and he knows that. I think he guessed that I'm meeting Craig. And now he wants to find Craig and stop him seeing me." "Stop him?" said Nick. "Or kill him?" "No," Meg Hudson said. "Daddy doesn't—" "The man with white hair pushed me in front of a car in Vancouver," Nick told her. and he shot at me in Stanley Park." "What?" said Meg. Tell me about this man with white hair," Winters said suddenly. Nick looked at him. "He's about 60 and he's tall and thin," he said. "Do you know his name?" asked Winters. "Vickers," said Nick. Craig Winters suddenly looked ill. Did he follow you to Victoria? Did he follow you here?" "I don't know," said Nick. He watched Winters. "You're afraid of him. Why? Why does this man Vickers want to kill you, Winters?" Before Craig Winters could answer, Meg's face went white. "Oh no," she said. Look over there, by the door." Nick and Craig Winters turned to look. At the door of the tea room stood the man with white hair. He looked up and down the room and then he saw them and began to walk across to their table. His hand was in his pocket. For a second or two, the three people at the table did not move. Then Craig Winters jumped to his feet. "That's Mr. Hollywood," he screamed. "That man there." And he pointed at Nick. The man's hand came out of his pocket with a gun. "This is for Anna," he shouted. Nick moved very fast. The tea table went over, and Nick was down on the floor in a second. The shot went over his head, and Meg screamed. At the same time, Craig Winters shouted out and put a hand on his arm. There was blood on his white shirt. Then more people began to scream, and two waiters pulled the man with white hair down onto the floor. "Get the police!" somebody shouted. Chapter 7. At the police station. It was 7:30 p.m. Nick and Meg were in a room at the police station. The man called Vickers was in a different room with 3 detectives. There was a doctor with him too. Craig Winters was at the hospital. The door opened and a detective came in with 2 cups of coffee. He put them down on the table and turned to go out again. "Detective Edmonds," Meg said. "Did the hospital call? Is Craig going to be all right?" "Winters?" Detective Edmonds said. "Yes, he's going to be okay." "Can I call the hospital now?" asked Meg. "I'd like you to wait," said Edmonds. "Detective Keat is going to be here in a minute. He's just coming from the airport and—" He looked through the open door. "Ah, here he is now." A second detective came into the room, and behind him was a tall man with dark hair. Meg stood up quickly. "Daddy!" she cried. "What are you doing here?" "The police called me," said Howard Hudson, "and I flew here at once. Detective Keat met me at the airport. Now sit down, Meg. I want you to listen to me." He did not look at Nick. Meg sat down and her father took her hands. "Meg, last week Johnny Vickers came to my house. He wanted to talk about his daughter. You remember Anna, Meg? 3 months ago, she jumped off a bridge in Boston and died. She was young, beautiful, rich, and she didn't want to live. Why? Because she loved a man, and the man took her money, ran away, and left her. And the man was called—" "No," said Meg. "No. Yes, Meg, yes. He was called Mr. Hollywood." "No," shouted Meg. She began to cry. "That's right, Miss Hudson," said Detective Keat quietly. "To you he gave the name Craig Winters. When Anna Vickers knew him, he was Carl Windsor, but he liked all his girlfriends to call him Mr. Hollywood. He took nearly $50,000 from Anna Vickers. And there was a girl before that." "No, it's not true," Meg shouted. "It is true, Meg," said her father. Windsor, gets all his money from rich men's daughters." Johnny Vickers loved his daughter. He went to her house in Boston after she died. He read her letters and learned about the money and the name Mr. Hollywood. And when he came to my house, I told him about you, Meg. I said, my daughter's got a new boyfriend, and she calls him Mr. Hollywood. I don't like him, but I can't stop her. She's going away to meet him next week, I think. What can I do? Johnny put his hand on my arm and he said, don't be afraid for your daughter. I'm going to find that man and stop him. Meg said nothing. Her face was very white. For a minute or two nobody spoke. Then Detective Edmonds said, Vickers told us all about it, Miss Hudson. He followed you to Whistler and saw you with... Nick began to understand. With me in the cafe. And Meg called me Mr. Hollywood. Howard Hudson looked at Nick. You're the travel writer guy, right? Lortz. Nick Lortz, said Nick. Vickers nearly killed me. He shot at me twice and... But Howard Hudson was not very interested in Nick. He looked at his daughter again. How much money did you give him, Meg? He said. I gave him $25,000, said Meg. Only for 2 or 3 months, he said. Then She began to cry again. Well, you can say goodbye to that money, said Hudson angrily. What's going to happen to Vickers? Nick asked Detective Edmonds. Hospital, I think, said Edmonds. Okay, he shot at you and about 50 people saw him. But he's not a well man. The doctors are going to put him away in a hospital. Howard Hudson stood up. Okay, Meg, I'm going to take you home. My plane is waiting at the airport. Meg followed her father to the door. Then she remembered Nick and turned. I'm sorry, she said. I got you into all this. I called you Mr. Hollywood. That was wrong, but I didn't know. It's okay, said Nick. You know everything now. And it's better to learn it now and not later. $50,000 later. Chapter 8. A nice smile. Nick took the evening ferry back to Vancouver. He was tired and hungry, so he went down to get some dinner in the ferry restaurant. The restaurant was busy and there was only one free table. Nick sat down quickly and began to eat. I must get back to work tomorrow, he thought, and forget about millionaires' daughters and men with guns. Excuse me, somebody said. Can I sit with you? Nick looked up. There was a pretty girl next to his table. He got up. It's okay, he said. You can have this table. I don't want it. And he began to move away. Please don't go, the girl said. Stay and finish your dinner. She smiled at him. It was a nice smile, but Nick knew all about nice smiles. I'm not hungry, he said. And he walked quickly out of the restaurant. Chapter 1. The Helping Hand Club. William was busy as usual in the building which was the office for Helping Hand. He worked there every Saturday morning. Today the building was full of teenagers, all waiting for someone to tell them what to do and where to go. Sally, Mrs. Smith needs someone to collect her shopping. Sally went to the desk and took the shopping list for Mrs. Smith. Then, with a smile on her pretty face, said goodbye and walked out of the office. John, Mrs. Jones wants you to take her dog for a walk, and be careful not to step on the dog this time. Gary, can you babysit for the Smiths this afternoon? Joe, Mr. Brown needs help in his garden. The telephone never stopped ringing, but slowly, as time passed, the office became calm again. Most of the teenagers were out helping the people of the town. The rest were by the coffee machine. Someone switched on the cassette player, and William sat in his chair more comfortably and closed his eyes. "Hello." William opened his eyes. A lovely girl stood in front of his desk, smiling. "Hello, young lady." "Who are you?" "I'm Kathy. I'm new here and I don't know anybody, so I thought perhaps I could help you." "You said the magic word. Help is always needed round here. In fact, as soon as Joan gets back, I'm taking the library van to the old people's home, and I need someone to help with the small trolley. Why don't you get some coffee and meet the rest of the group?" Suddenly the door flew open and a tall, smiling girl came in. "Sorry I'm late. Mr. Tagg took a very long time to finish at the foot clinic. He's back home now, so here I am." "Any problems, William?" "Nothing serious, but we do have a new helper." "Kathy, come and meet Joan. She's the manager here. William's taking me to the old people's home to give out the library books, if that's all right." "Lovely, but watch out. William is a terrible driver, so fasten your seatbelt. Don't believe a word she says. Bye-bye, everybody. See you later." "All right, but not too much later. We have a lot of things to do, you know." Everyone laughed as there was really not so much to do that day. William and Kathy walked out of the office and got into the van. "Don't worry, Kathy. I'm a safe driver, and it won't take us very long to do this job." Kathy smiled at William and looked at the busy street outside. "I'm not worried about your driving, but it will take us a long time as there's a lot of traffic in the streets today." "All right then. Let's hit the road." Chapter 2. The Lady in Room 16. The old people's home was outside the town. When they arrived, William parked at the main entrance. He went to the back of the van and pushed a big trolley of books out of it. Kathy took the smaller trolley. "I'll go to the main room downstairs and you take your trolley round the rooms to the old people who can't get out of bed. The matron will give you the room numbers." Just then the matron arrived. "Hello, William." "They're waiting for you." "But who's this?" "Hello, I'm Kathy. I'm new at Helping Hand, and William asked me to come here." "Thank you for coming." They always like to meet new people from the town. This is the list of room numbers. Leave the lady in room 16 last, because she likes to talk and feels lonely now that she has to stay in bed. "All right." William pushed his trolley into the large, sunny room on the left of the hall. Kathy pushed her trolley down a narrow corridor with doors on each side. The old people were happy to meet her and asked her lots of questions. At last, Kathy arrived at room 16. She knocked on the door, and when a gentle voice called, "Come in," Kathy opened the door and pushed the trolley into a pretty room, which at that moment was full of sunshine. An old lady with bright blue eyes behind round metal-framed glasses was lying in bed. Her hair was soft and white, shining in the sunlight. She smiled at Kathy. Kathy smiled back at her. "Good afternoon. My name's Kathy Watson, and I'm working at Helping Hand. I brought you some books. Do you want one?" "I am Miss Emily. Nice to meet you. May I ask how old you are, Kathy?" "I'm 19. Now come here and let me look at you." "Yes, you do remind me of a girl I knew long ago. She was very pretty too. But enough of that. Please come and sit down on this stool beside me, as I have many things to tell you, and there is very little time left." Kathy sat down beside the old lady. She felt calm and peaceful, but curious too. The old lady began to speak softly. I am very old now, but when I was young, I went to work in a big house. I worked in the basement doing the washing and ironing. Lord Hampton, the young master, lived alone. But many rich friends came to visit him, and his parties were famous in the town. Hampton House was beautiful then. Bright lights shone in all the rooms. They made the wood on the furniture shine and the silver sparkle. The carpets were so thick your feet disappeared inside the wool when you walked on them. I was lucky. The cook let me have some food after Lord Hampton's meals came back to the kitchen, but his other servants were often cold and hungry. How terrible! Lord Hampton wasn't a bad man. He just thought servants. No, he didn't think about servants at all. Rich people and his work. That was all he thought about. Do people still work there? Cleaners, gardeners, and maybe the young people from Helping Hand sometimes? No. The house is old and needs lots of repairs. Nobody ever goes there now. And Lord Hampton, there was no answer from Miss Emily. Her eyes were shut, and there was a smile on her lips. The kind of smile children have when they are keeping a secret, thought Cathy. Do you want a book to read? No, thank you. Come and visit me again another day. Cathy stood up and quietly pushed the trolley to the door. She opened it, went out of the room and back into the narrow corridor. What took you so long? Miss Emily. She told me about the days when she was young. Who's Miss Emily? The lady in room 16, the one you told me to leave last. But the lady in room 16 is called Karen Black. That's strange. Maybe I got the name wrong. Come on then, we have to get back to work. Back at Helping Hand, Joan asked Cathy to answer the telephone for a few hours. William left to help Mr. Fisher paint his house. At 2:00, everyone returned to the office. Joan gave each of them a brown envelope with their name on the front. Joan gave Cathy an envelope too. Inside there was a £5 note. Oh, what's this? You didn't think you worked today for nothing? Yes, I did. Joan started Helping Hand so the young people who don't have much money could find work and at the same time help people who can't do things by themselves. You see, we help the townspeople and they help us. Then everyone is happy. Do you want to come to the dance here tonight? Oh, I didn't see any notices about a dance. How do you know there's going to be a dance here tonight, William? There's a dance here every Saturday night for the people from Helping Hand and any other young people who want to come. It's fun and you'll meet new people. So, will you come to the dance? Okay then, I'll come. Thank you for asking me, William. See you at 8:00 outside the office then. Chapter 3. The Dance. That evening Cathy took a long time to dress because she didn't know what to wear. She finally put on her best dress and shoes. Then she brushed her shoulder-length fair hair until it shone. A last look in the mirror showed a slim girl with happy brown eyes, her oval face framed by soft curls. William stood at the end of the road and waited. When he saw Cathy, he hurried to meet her. Hello again. Ready to go? Yes, let's go. Together they went into the building. It was full of young people. Some girls were in miniskirts and t-shirts, others in long bright dresses. Most of the young men wore jeans, t-shirts and leather jackets. Everyone wanted to enjoy themselves. William greeted his friends, then invited Cathy to dance the moment the music started. They danced nicely together, and when the music stopped, a girl with soft brown hair and shining brown eyes came near them. "This is Sue. Sue, say hello to Kathy." "Hello, Kathy. Nice to meet you. Come and meet the rest of the crowd." Just then, a tall young man came forward. He held his glasses in one hand and a handkerchief in the other. "This is John. He always cleans his glasses when he's thinking. He's terribly clever, so he cleans his glasses a lot. My hair falls across one eye when I'm angry." She looked into his kind green eyes and didn't believe he could ever actually get angry. "Here comes Pam. You hear her before you see her because she's always laughing." "Are you talking about me?" "Yes. I hope it was something nice." As she smiled, her grey eyes shone. A young man went near her. "Hello. My name's Adam. Glad to meet you. I'm Kathy. Would you like to dance?" "I'd love to." For the rest of the evening, Kathy danced and talked to her new friends, and William enjoyed himself too. "Last dance. My dance." William led Kathy to the dance floor. As they were dancing, Kathy took a look at her face in a mirror. Her cheeks were pink, and her eyes were shining. After the dance was over, William and Kathy went home, walking through the streets of the town which were now quiet. "See you tomorrow then, Kathy." "See you tomorrow, William." Bye-bye. Every Saturday, Kathy and William worked at Helping Hand. Kathy enjoyed doing the odd jobs around town. She even sang for a pop group because their singer was sick. And then she had to serve drinks and food to the guests at a garden party. But the name of the house was Pine Lodge, not Hampton House, as she had hoped. One Saturday, she and William helped Mr. Jones build a fish pond in his garden. As it was a very hot day, they decided to jump into the pond to cool off a little after so much hard work. Mr. Jones looked at them and said that he would have to put the fish in the pond the next day. On days when there was no work to do, they played Monopoly and Scrabble and had a lot of fun together. William also taught Kathy to cycle. One day, Joan asked Kathy and William to take the van to the old people's home. Kathy visited the rooms on the matron's list. Number 16 was not on the list. "Where's the lady from room 16? She's gone away. By the way, I found an envelope with your name on it, left on the floor of room 16. Here it is." Kathy opened the envelope and took out the piece of paper inside. "Visit Hampton," was all it said. She put the paper in her pocket. "Was she a friend of yours?" "No, but I liked her." Then, as there was nothing else to do in the old people's home, Kathy followed William out to the van. Chapter 4. The Accident. Autumn turned to winter. In the regular Saturday morning meeting, Joan clapped her hands and asked everyone to be quiet. Everyone stopped talking and looked at her. "The council is going to pull this place down, so we have 1 month to find a new meeting place. Has anyone got any ideas?" The room was silent. "Well, if we want to keep Helping Hand, we must find a place for our office, so get onto your bicycles or motorbikes and start looking. This is your chance to ride your bicycle out in the countryside." Kathy had an old bicycle she'd bought from a friend at Helping Hand. At the moment, the bicycle was at the bike shop. William's friend George wanted to mend the brakes before Kathy went out onto the busy roads. "We'll go on Sunday. We can join the others and have a picnic. Kathy got up early on Sunday morning and walked to the shop to collect her bicycle. Hello. You're up early, aren't you? Yes. We're going on a picnic today, so I need my bicycle. Well, the new tires are on, and the front brake works, but today I wanted to mend the back brake. It's not working properly. Oh, never mind. I'll ride slowly and I'll try to be very careful with the front brake. It's very dangerous to use the front brake without the back one. If you put it on too hard, you'll fall off. She still didn't know how to ride her bicycle very well, but she wanted to go on the picnic more than anything else. Show me what to do, then I won't be in any danger. George got onto the bicycle and rode round Kathy. Then he put on the front brake. The back wheel of the bicycle moved to the side and George nearly fell off. Now you see what can happen. He pushed the bike over to where Kathy stood. Yes. Now you try, but this time use the front brake gently. Kathy rode slowly round George, then gently put on the front brake. The bike slowed, then stopped. That's it, but remember you have no back brake. Your bicycle is dangerous. Thank you, George. And don't worry, I really will be very careful. That must be William and the others. Well, have a good time and bring your bicycle back here tonight so then I can fix it properly. Goodbye and don't worry. She got on her bicycle and went to meet the others. They all started cycling together towards the countryside. Is everything all right? No problem. At the end of the road there was a hill. They all cycled slowly up that hill, and Kathy pedalled harder to catch up with them. At last, they got to the top. Who wants to race me down the hill? They started going down the hill. They were going faster and faster, and William was singing loudly. This is like flying! Kathy's bicycle zoomed down the hill. Suddenly, Kathy saw a crossroads at the bottom of the hill. A lorry was coming slowly from a side road moving into the main road. Gently, Kathy put on the front brake of her bicycle, but it just slowed a little. It didn't stop. Put your brakes on, Kathy. I can't. William, help. Oh my God. Kathy froze with fear. She saw the look of horror on the lorry driver's face just before she crashed into the side of his lorry. Then, for a moment, everything went black. Chapter 5. Life or Death. Kathy heard people shouting, and then the sound of her bicycle wheel spinning round. She opened her eyes and saw William's face among other faces looking down at her. Finally, she felt the pain all over her body. It slowly spread from her head to the rest of her body. It was so bad she could hardly breathe. A siren sounded in the distance. William, who sat on the road next to her, gently lifted her head. You shouldn't move her. The ambulance is coming now. This is a bad one. We'll take her now. Can I go with her in the ambulance? She won't know you're there, but get in if you like. Don't worry about your bike. We'll bring it to the hospital. Thanks. William climbed into the ambulance and sat down near Kathy. He felt terrible. In fact, he was shaking. Kathy looked so white and there was a deep cut on her head. At the hospital, William was walking beside the stretcher, praying for Kathy's life, while tears filled his eyes. The nurse came up to him. Wait here, please. Will she be all right? I'm sure she will. You should drink a cup of sweet coffee. It's good for shock. You look terrible. The nurse brought William some coffee. He drank the hot coffee slowly. The long wait had begun. Slowly, the young people from Helping Hands started coming into the hospital. At first, they talked to William, but he didn't want to talk. He only wanted Kathy to be well. happy and laughing again as she was a while ago on the way to the picnic. 1 hour passed, then another. The young crowd left, but William sat quietly and waited. The clock ticked on the wall and the hands moved round, then round again. William hated that clock. Then the door opened and the doctor walked up to him. William couldn't speak or even breathe. "Are you William?" "Yes." "How is she?" "A nasty bump on the head, some cuts and bruises, but nothing broken. She's awake now and wants to see you." "Ah," she also shouted the name Hampton House. "Is it her home?" "No, it isn't. She must stay in town when she leaves the hospital. No long journeys on trains or buses. I'll make sure she stays in town. But can I see her now, please?" "Yes, yes, she's waiting for you." Kathy smiled shyly at William. He looked tired and his t-shirt was covered in dirt and blood. He sat down on the chair next to her bed. "How do you feel?" "You gave me an awful fright. Much better now. The doctor says I can go home tomorrow." "Yes, he said you're fine. He also told me that you said something about a house called Hanton, or something like that." "Hampton House. A lady I met in the old people's home said she used to work there once." A nurse came into the room. "It's time you went, young man. Come again tomorrow and take her home. Good night, Kathy. See you tomorrow. Good night and thank you, William." Kathy relaxed and closed her eyes. She thought about the old lady's story. Who was the old woman? Why did she tell me about her past? She seemed to know me, but I had never seen her before. Rich masters with lots of servants have not been around for a long time, and the old lady looked so old. This Lord Hampton, can he still be in that house? Why did she give me the invitation? Oh, it's the bump on my head that makes me feel confused. The man must be over 100 years old. The house is probably empty. With this last thought, Kathy felt very calm. When the nurse opened the door a few moments later, she was pleased to see that Kathy was asleep. Chapter 6. Hampton House. For the next few days, Kathy stayed quietly at home. In the evenings, people came to visit her and told her about the search for a new meeting place. Everyone in the town was helpful, offering their garages, garden sheds, or even their spare rooms. But none of the places were any good as an office for Helping Hand. That's it then. Helping Hand will have to close. What about Hampton House? An old lady at the old people's home was telling me about it. Maybe it's just what we need for an office, as it's been empty for years. It's worth a try. You never know. 2 days later, William found some information about the house. He told Kathy that it was near the old people's home. He had checked on an old map of the town and found out where it was. "We're going there this afternoon. Do you want to come, Kathy?" "Of course." "You can't leave me behind." It was a warm afternoon. Kathy sat behind William on his motorbike and waved to the crowd from Helping Hand. They wanted to come and look round the old house too. After a long ride, they finally saw its old wall with tall iron gates in the middle of it. Some energetic young people climbed up onto the high wall while others looked in through the gate. Kathy saw a wild garden with old trees covered in ivy. The house was exactly as she had imagined it, except the roof had fallen in. The windows were covered in dirt and dust, and they were cracked from the stones children had thrown at them for fun. "It's falling down. What do you think, Sue?" It does look dangerous. Where are you going, Adam? I'm going to have a look round. Adam jumped off the top of the wall into the garden. Everyone watched in fear as he tried to walk across the wild garden to the house. Suddenly he came back to the wall and climbed quickly over it to the road. Snakes! The garden is full of snakes. That's it then. We can't use the old house. I'm not afraid of snakes. Before anyone could stop her, Kathy climbed up to the top of the wall and jumped down. Carefully, she walked across the garden to the heavy wooden front door. She bent down and cleared the stones and earth from the bottom. Then she slowly turned the big brass handle to open it. The door opened just enough for Kathy to get inside, then it closed behind her. Kathy was in a large room. The walls were cracked and peeling. The ceiling hung down in places and the floor was covered in dust. The few floorboards that showed looked worm-eaten and dangerous. Kathy saw a great staircase covered with spiders' webs and a small mouse sitting on the bottom step. Quickly, it jumped away in a cloud of dust. Kathy became so frightened that she couldn't move. She was ready to leave the house when she saw a large table and 4 chairs. There was no dust on them. A candlestick stood in the middle of the table with a lit candle in it. Kathy went closer and, at that moment, she heard the voice. "Please sit down, Kathy." Strangely, Kathy felt relaxed and comfortable when she heard it. She sat down on the nearest chair and waited. A plate of delicious food appeared in front of her. It was hot and smelt delicious. Kathy felt hungry, so she picked up the heavy silver knife and fork, and soon her plate was empty. It disappeared, and a bowl of strawberries and cream arrived in its place. Lovely. Thank you. I never could say no to food. Our time together is not ended. Please come to the house another day, Kathy. She accepted the invitation, then carefully stood up from the table and walked round the room, keeping close to the wall until she reached the front door. It opened easily and she was outside again in the bright sunshine. The crowd gathered round her. What happened? Is the house any good for our meetings? Why did you stay in there so long? Kathy told them about the clean table and chairs, about the lovely meal and about the voice. She saw the way they looked at each other and she knew they didn't believe her. Come on, Kathy. It seems the bump on your head is more serious than we thought. If there's free food inside, I'll go next time. Everyone relaxed and laughed as they walked away from the old house. Chapter 7. The Investigation. Kathy woke up the next morning and saw that it was raining when she looked out of her bedroom window. She ran downstairs and across the road to William's house. Are you going to the old house today? Yes, I'm going with John and some of the others. But you can come too if you like. Yes, I do want to come with you. The old house looked more frightening than before. It was difficult for William and John to climb the wall because it was wet and slippery. Kathy waited at the gate and watched them walk across the garden. They went to the front door and together they pushed hard, but it wouldn't open. Then they walked to the side of the house looking for a window to climb through. William looked for a rock to break the glass, and John climbed into the house first. It was cold and dark. There was dust everywhere and mice ran across the room. The hole in the roof let the rain in onto the ruined floor. The wind made strange sounds too. John walked further into the room just as William climbed in through the window. Can you see anything? No, there's no table here, the room's empty. I wonder why Kathy made up that story. I think that this house makes her say funny things. She's so much different when she's away from here. They climbed out through the window and across the garden to meet Kathy. Well, what's it like in there? Did you see anything unusual? The whole place is a mess. The floor is rotten and the walls are falling apart. The roof, as you can see, is ruined. Did you hear the voice or see the table and chairs? There was no table or chairs either. There's nothing in there. Kathy just made the whole thing up. Don't ask me why. Without waiting for Kathy, he started the motorbike and rode away down the road. The others stared at her, then walked away from her and got onto their bicycles. Kathy was now alone, outside the old house. Slowly and carefully, she climbed the wet wall and got into the garden. She walked up to the front door, turned the doorknob, and stepped inside. The room smelt damp. The table and chairs were not in the room. Kathy was ready to leave when she suddenly saw 2 armchairs on either side of the fireplace. There was a small table beside one of them. Kathy walked slowly across the room. She reached the back of the chairs and looked to see if anyone was sitting in one of them. She was really scared as she did so, but fortunately, both the chairs were empty. Suddenly, a gentle wind came into the room and made the old tom curtains move. She turned round and called to the empty room. "Please let me see your face, Lord Hampton." There was no answer. The room was silent, and Kathy, even more scared now, stood quietly beside the empty chairs. After a long silence, which made Kathy more nervous, the voice spoke again. Kathy looked towards the sound, but she could see nothing. "Please sit down, Kathy, and make yourself comfortable." She sat in front of the brightly burning fire and waited. She forgot about William and the others at Helping Hand. "I have a gift for you. There's a box on the table next to you. Do open it." Kathy carefully opened the box. Inside there was a small diamond heart on a chain. "Put it on, then I must explain why the heart belongs to you." Kathy put the chain over her head. Then she sat quietly and waited. The voice echoed round the room as the story began. Chapter 8. Lord Hampton's Story. When I was very young, I lived in a village where the people were very poor. I worked on a farm picking fruit and planting vegetables. Every day at lunchtime, a young girl brought me fresh bread and some cheese to eat. She was a very pretty girl, and she wore a beautiful diamond heart round her neck. This jewel was so pretty that I could not stop thinking about it. Late one night, I went to her house, sneaked in, and stole the diamond heart which was beside her on a pillow. The next morning, I left the village. I sold the diamond heart and I used the money to buy clothes. Then I went to work for a rich old man. I worked hard for many years and became very close to him. I often thought about the girl whose diamond heart I had stolen, but I never went back to my village to see her. One day the old man asked me to visit him in his house. He said to me, "I have no family. You are a good man, and I want you to have my business and this house. After I die, everything I have is yours." Soon after he died, I inherited his money and became a very rich man. Everyone called me Lord Hampton and were afraid of me as I had become a cruel master who treated people in a terrible way. One day, the girl whose diamond heart I had stolen years before came to my house. She was cold and hungry and needed work. Now the time had come for me to help her, just as the diamond heart I had stolen from her had helped me in the past. After all, I owed her so much. But instead, when I saw that she did not recognize me in my fine new clothes, my cruel self made me send her down to the basement, where she had to work long, hard hours. Every day she had to carry water from the well, boil it in huge pots, and then wash my clothes in it. Then she had to hang them outside to dry and press them with the heavy iron. She worked hard all day for a bowl of soup and a piece of dry bread. Then, exhausted, she slept on the wet floor for a few hours. The only person that gave her some happiness was a kind young man, who finally married her. When this happened, I felt sad for some time because I had memories from the time we were both young and poor, and she cared for me so much. But my sadness quickly went away. What did I want from a poor, miserable girl? My house was beautiful. I had many rich friends, and there was always good food on my table. So, you can imagine my surprise when years later, when I was an old man, the girl came to me in a dream and said, "Many of your servants have died of cold and hunger. The ones who lived to be old were sent away when they could not work anymore, and they too died of hunger. Now you must suffer before you can find peace. You will know when the time has come, because a young girl will come to your house. If she eats at your table and you speak to her honestly of your past cruelty and selfishness, then you will be free to leave this house and find peace." In the morning, I found the diamond heart on the pillow beside me, and I knew it had not been a dream. Soon what she had told me became true. All my servants were old and tired. One by one they left, but no new ones came to work for me. My beautiful house started falling apart. My rich friends no longer wanted to visit me. For endless years I have wandered from room to room, always waiting for a young girl to come and free my soul from its suffering. Now I can finally find peace. There was a long sigh after the voice stopped speaking. Kathy felt cold and lonely as she stood in the middle of the empty room. Suddenly, the fire went out. "Don't leave me here alone," Kathy cried, but there was no answer. She walked slowly across the dark room to the front door. There she turned and looked once more at the two chairs beside the fireplace. Then she left the house. It was still raining and nobody was waiting outside the gates for her. Kathy felt lonely and sad as she walked home. Chapter 9. A Matter of Choice. William telephoned Joan early on Friday morning. "Hello? Joan, I must speak to you." "Why don't you come to the office, William?" "It's not open today, so we'll have time to talk." William hurried to the office, and after Joan unlocked the door for him, he sat down opposite her in front of the big desk. "I need your help. It's about Kathy and the strange happenings at Hampton House. Kathy's never been like this before, but every time she goes near that house, she seems to be a different person. I don't believe in ghosts. Maybe the accident she had makes her see things. Kathy is special to me, but I'm afraid she's not the Kathy I knew anymore. I thought you might want to talk to me about that. Kathy told me once that her mother died when she was very small and she had never seen her grandmother. So I went to the old people's home and asked some old people who remembered Kathy's grandmother. They told me that when she was young, she used to work for Lord Hampton. So maybe Kathy's grandmother was the girl with the diamond heart. Joan, I came to talk to you because I thought you were a logical person. It seems that I've made a mistake. I believe that something happened to Kathy in that house, and if she's really special to you, then you must believe it too. If you can't do that, then let her go. You have until the meeting tomorrow to decide. The next day was Saturday. Kathy walked slowly along the road to the offices of Helping Hand. She knew that the young people there were angry with her, especially William. The room was full of young people talking or sitting quietly waiting for Joan to tell them where to go. William was in a corner of the room with his close friends around him. He turned his back to Kathy, but Joan hurried over to her. "Hello, Kathy. How are you today?" "I feel much better, thank you. Come over here to my desk. I have something to say to these young people, and I want you beside me." Confused, Kathy followed Joan and sat down near her desk. "Attention, please. As you all know, we haven't found a new office for Helping Hand yet, but we will finally find one. Sadly, I won't be here to help you. I'm moving away from this town, but there are many good people here to take my place. Today you must vote for a new leader. I've chosen 3 people I think will do the job well: William Owen, Sally Brown, and John Holt. If you all agree, then please write the name of the person you want as a leader on a piece of paper. Then put your paper in the box on my desk." After everyone had voted, they returned to their jobs. Kathy's job that day was to answer the telephone. When the office was quiet, Joan turned to Kathy. "That old house we saw, Hampton House, it's being pulled down today." "No." Kathy jumped up from the chair. She ran outside, feeling that she had to visit the old house one more time. Chapter 10. The Final Moments. Kathy could hear the noise before she got to the house. She saw lorries blocking the road outside it and workmen walking in and out. Then she saw the bulldozers. They were breaking the windows and the wooden balcony. Soon the rest of the roof fell in a cloud of dust. Poor Lord Hampton. Now he'll be in that old house forever. I came too late. Now I can't do anything to help him. The bulldozers were ready to pull down the rest of the house. A moment before they did so, Kathy saw a blinding light rising slowly above the house. For a moment, the house looked the way it did in the past, full of glamour. Then it fell to pieces. Only dust, bricks, and stones were left, where once the beautiful home of Lord Hampton had stood. Kathy looked at the light shining in the air. It became dimmer as it travelled higher. Then she thought she heard the voice. Call. "Goodbye, Kathy." "Goodbye. Have a safe journey, Lord Hampton." "Goodbye." "Move along, miss. It's dangerous round here." Kathy smiled at the workman. Suddenly, she felt very happy. She did not go back to the Helping Hand office. Nobody telephoned her or came to her home, but Kathy didn't mind. She waited quietly for a message or sign. It came at last through an article on the front page of the local paper, which began with the words, "No ghost in Hampton House." They pulled Hampton House down last Saturday. The house was empty apart from an old dining room table and 4 chairs buried under weeds and rubbish in the garden. They'd obviously been there for many years. In the basement of the house, workmen found 2 armchairs and a small table. That was all that remains of a rich man's property. Helping Hand Club's office is going to be a new building. We're very pleased, said William Owen, the newly elected leader of Helping Hand. If anyone has any information about the house or its previous owner, please contact the editor of this paper. Telephone 3353572. Kathy tore the newspaper into small pieces and threw them out of the window. The wind lifted the pieces high into the air. She didn't even look at them. The past was over, and now she was in a hurry to get to the new Helping Hand office. She wanted to see her friends again, but most of all she wanted to see William. Meanwhile, William was reading the same article at home. When he finished, he tore his newspaper into pieces and threw them into the dustbin. Then he took his coat and left. He walked down the road whistling as he went. Then he saw Mrs. Smith coming out to collect her milk from the doorstep. "Good morning, Mrs. Smith. There goes a young man in love. Best of luck, William." It was the day Helping Hand was going to move to the new offices. The old building was full of people who were anxious to help, but it did not take more than a moment for William to realize that Kathy was not there. Suddenly, he felt miserable. He sat in his chair and closed his eyes. She's right, of course. Who would want to be with a selfish person like me? I almost called her a liar, and I wasn't there when she needed me. Are you speaking to me? Kathy, I'm so sorry about what happened. I was selfish and cruel to you, but I promise you'll never be lonely or afraid again. William took Kathy's hands into his and looked into her eyes. She looked back at him. Hampton House was... Forget Hampton House. It's part of the past. Yes, but if we have any future together, if we have a future together. Oh, Kathy, I want that more than anything. But can you forgive me for the way I acted? I will never doubt you again. Of course I will, William. Oh, Kathy, I love you so much. I think that's everything. Sue, with one of the removal men, was looking round to see if everything had been cleared away. She saw William and Kathy holding hands, looking into each other's eyes. Well, you'd better put those two in the van. It's the only way we'll get them to the new offices. They both turned to look at all the people watching them. William threw his head back and laughed. So did everyone else, their joy-full laughter filling the building for the last time.